to order for the North Lake County Hospital District. On June 15th, 2023, we do not have a quorum at this time, but we are anticipating the fourth person to show up. I'd like to have everyone stand for Pledge of Allegiance. Do I have a veteran in the room that could lead us?
I'll do it.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much for doing that. I'd like to, yes, I'd like to have just a moment of silence also, if you could just take a few seconds to reflect. Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Kirsty, would you like to do roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Harper? Ms. Hooper? Mr. Hurley?
Present.
Ms. Price?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
We do not have a quorum yet. If you want to jump over item number 4 for the minutes, you can't vote.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
okay. We will have the presentation of the financial report.
Okay, Matt
Matt.
from Crippen. Yeah, Matt from Crippen, outsourced accounting, a CPA firm for the North Lake County Hospital District. Included in tab 5 of your packet is the draft of the audited financial statements of the North Lake County Hospital District. It's a statute requirement for the district to have a financial statement audit every year. The fiscal year end of the organization is 9/30/2022, and most recently, last meeting, there was a RFP conclusion selecting the audit firm Purvis Gray & Company. Included in this packet behind tab 5 is our financial statements and their audit opinion. I asked them if it would be okay if I presented this draft to the trustees. There's not much complexity to it, and it could save some time and cost to the job to not have them travel in group down here. So with that, if you want to start looking at the financial statements, the most important part included in these financial statements begins on page 1, 2, and 3, and that is the auditor's report. We prepare the financial statements as an organization, including note disclosures. They audit those statements and note disclosures and issue their opinion. They have an unmodified and clean audit opinion for the 2022 fiscal year, which is the highest level of assurance that can be awarded by a CPA firm in a financial statement audit. Beyond that is the management's discussion and analysis section of the financial statements themselves, the note disclosures, and the required management communications. They are in the packet. Probably had a chance to review them. Without going into great detail on them, do we have any questions about the financial statements? Okay.
I do not.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions? Do we have any public comments? Yes, please come up and let's go. State your name.
Sure. How much time do we have?
3 minutes.
Great. Well, good to see everybody. Are you doing public comment, just one comment on everything, or is it by subject?
No, by this, what we're talking about right now.
Okay, good. Just on the audit. My only comment on the audit that was conducted is that Anthony Sabatini, country lawyer, chairman of the Lake County Republican Party, former state legislator, former state or city commissioner in the town of Eustis, and vociferous opponent of corporate welfare, including taking the money of working class and middle class people in Lake County and sending it to the single wealthiest entity in our county, which are these hospital districts whose CEOs make millions and millions and millions of dollars a year. The people who work at Lake Tyre wish they made that much money. They don't have that opportunity. They also don't work for a nonprofit that doesn't pay tax. Anyway, so on this specific subject is thus, the employees of this board, you're in charge of. So the attorney, the CPAs, everybody, you ought to be doing an RFP on. You shouldn't have these people rolled over from when there was a different board, a different majority with different interests. The interests, of course, heretofore were doing one millage rate, 1.0 millage rate, the max amount of taxpayer money to divert into the pockets of special interest in our community. You're a new board, a majority conservative board. You should be RFPing these positions and letting other attorneys and CPAs come in and give their thoughts on what the board is doing, who also, by the way, could give you backup on what you should be doing. So that's what I have to say about this subject. I look forward to speaking about the tentative millage rate increase in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, thank you.
I was thinking it was on the millage, which I did want to speak on, but I do think in general RFPs are a great idea. I know when I was a county commissioner in Clay County, we would often go out for RFP and get huge reductions on the amount we were paying simply by going out for RFPs. So there's a lot of ways to save money by going out for RFPs and seeing what else is out there. Competition is a good thing, and competition drives down the price. Thanks. Oh, my name, sorry, Gavin Rollins, former Clay County Commissioner and current law student. It's Gavin, and it's Rollins, Rollins, like Rollins College. Thank you.
I can make a comment to that, right? Just a general comment. We do have two new entities helping us on the North Lake County Hospital Board. So they are new to this year.
Correct. We're not non-employees with independent firm, and we went through an RFP process last year, and the auditors were selected by this current board in January.
Okay. Any more questions? Mr. Harper?
No, good, thank you.
Can we have Mr. Harper move down, or is that okay? Yes, we can. Would you like to move down? Thank you. Yes, we need to let the record reflect that we have a quorum now with Mr. Ricky Harper here. And since we have no other questions,
We would seek a motion to approve the financial statement audit.
yeah. Can we get a motion to approve the financial report?
So move.
Get a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Aye. Okay. The next. Oh, yes. We need to look at our minutes from our January meeting, and are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Does anyone have any comments or additions or corrections? Seeing none, can we get a motion to approve?
I move.
I need a second. Second? All in favor? Aye. Okay, here we go. Okay. We're on to new business, presentation of the quarterly audits. Matt?
It's me again on this situation. The CPA firm of Moore, Stevens, Lovelace was unable to be here tonight to present this information and asked that I present it in their stead. So included in tab 6AI is the October 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2022 agreed upon procedures regarding the indigent care reimbursement submissions. The report standard in language as it has been in prior quarters, and based on the testing results, they have approved amounts for based on provider or for each provider listed, and that is on the second or third to last page of their presentation, listed by provider and amount in a total. Any questions about their agreed upon procedures or the amount that they have tested and approved as eligible reimbursable costs by provider?
No, just because we have a couple new board members, just to explain to them that this audit is like they do a 95% accuracy in detail, is that correct?
Yeah, correct. They're an independent CPA firm of the North Lake County Hospital District Board, engaged to provide procedures described to them and listed here in this packet. They agree to provide the procedures, thus the name agreed upon procedures. They conduct the procedures we've asked them to do and provide a conclusion or results of, which is included here. And to her point, they sample the costs that are provided to them by the hospitals and clinics, and the sampling methodology they use results in a 95% confidence. So,
And not to put you on the spot, because I know that you're filling in for them, but the cost that they use, is that compared with Medicaid?
yes, and I don't want to misspeak on it, but when reading their report, it is listed in here, so if you bear with me just a moment, they talk about the fee. I hope I am able to find it quickly. And
Is
if
it
not,
on, identified as paragraph 5, for the sample encounter, for the procedure code?
correct.
On the second page.
Correct, yep. It is, it's a Medicare cost. I'm not seeing the language I was referring to, though, but it is at a rate that is less than the Medicaid reimbursables.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that our new members were aware of that. Do we have any questions at this time?
You have 2 reports there.
Oh, you want to go to the second one, or do we need to do both at the? We can do both at the same time? Okay.
Okay, that was a final report for December 31st, 2022. The next tab, 6AII, is a draft report for the period of January 1st, 2023 through March 31st, 2023. Same process involved, same testing, selection, sampling methodology, same confidence interval rating based on the statistical sample. And again, they've provided a list of providers and the amounts that would be approvable, reimbursable cost to the providers. And just information for the board, both of the December and March reports and the costs and the amounts listed are within the budgetary, the approved budget of the trustees board for the fiscal year 2022, 2023.
Hello? Heather Hildebrand, your granddaughter's calling you.
You better get that one. I would. It's your granddaughter, take it, it's important.
important.
You got that, you better.
If, as long as she's okay, as long as you know she's okay.
She's okay.
Okay. When it comes to grandchildren, I'm sorry, I make a little exception.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I thought. Okay, so I need a motion to approve the first one. Need a motion?
Okay, I'll make it.
Need a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Aye. I need a motion to approve the second one.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay. Our next item is going to be presented from Ms. Cotterson, and it's a presentation of special meetings and dates.
Can you hear me? Okay. The only change we made is due to the trim procedures. Initially, we're going to do a meeting on August 31st for the preliminary budget, and that was too soon. We would have been out of compliance. So the preliminary budget meeting will now be on September 14th, with the final budget meeting on September 28th, 2023. Those are the changes. Any questions?
So the only date that has actually changed is the September 14th.
The 28th.
Oh, the 28th, because the
14th was originally scheduled.
Okay, the 28th, I don't think I can be here.
Okay, I'll have to get with the county and see what else is available. We have a timeline. to
Right, I
finish
know. If you could just see if that can be changed. I have a flight out that afternoon,
that. Okay,
so if I have to change it, I will, but I prefer not to.
let me see what I can do with the timeline. I'll get with you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Well, while we're at it, I've got a problem with August 17th. I see we have a meeting scheduled for then. I'll be in Curacao from the 14th to the 20th, and I definitely will not be here if you don't change it, so.
Can you call in? That's going to be the funding request?
Nope, not gonna do it. I tried it last time. It was a fiasco. It was a joke. I wasn't heard. I'm not gonna do it, no. Just hopefully you'll have a quorum. I won't be here unless you want to change the date. And I'm supposed to be in Africa, the 14th through the 21st.
Of August?
Yes.
So can we move it a week to the 24th?
Please note that
I
these
don't think
dates were presented at the beginning
In
of
January.
January, and we ask that everybody put them on their calendar and confirm. It's very difficult
Well,
to.
unfortunately, I got married 48 years ago, so it's a little bit hard to do that.
I understand that, but
Yeah.
we have to reserve the building, we have security, we have to reserve the clerk. I'm just asking, would you please, next time the dates are presented, check and let us know before we confirm them? Also note that August 17th, unless it's changed, is the funding request for all of the hospitals and the entities.
And that is not a voting meeting, so as long, but we have to have 4
Oh,
people
okay.
here to conduct the meeting, correct?
Well, if you have the vice chair, you can conduct the meeting,
Okay.
you're not voting on anything.
Yeah, we're not
That doesn't
voting.
matter. I can watch it on video later.
I mean, if it's a funding request.
Yeah, there's no
So
vote. It
there's
doesn't
no
matter if you have a
voting,
quorum or
so-
not. You can have one person or none. It doesn't matter. We can watch on video later.
Everybody's here because they go to a lot of
A detail.
These hospitals and entities go to a lot of trouble to make a presentation to the board. So it would be nice if we can have a quorum,
Well,
please.
They've got 2 months to change their schedule if they wish to.
Okay, we'll make every effort to accommodate the scheduling changes requested.
All right, thank you.
And for that funding request, will we get some type of documentation from the clinics and the hospitals about their presentation so that maybe if the two of them are not here, they can at least review it? They're both going to be out of the country, so I don't expect them to review it out of the country, to be honest.
We've always asked that the clinics and the hospitals provide their presentation 5 days before the actual meeting. And the majority, 99.9% of them all do get it to me. Where we run into issues sometimes is when we're getting audit reports and things are changing at the last minute that we can't pass on. But if the hospitals and the clinics provide it to us, we provide it to you as soon as we get it.
So I just want to reiterate again, so the only meeting date that changed is the 28th. Everything else was we voted on in January, is that correct?
That is
Okay.
correct.
I just want to make sure, because I didn't remember September 28th, and I'm like, I made a flight out of town for a meeting, so that's why I made it. So, okay, I wanted to make sure.
Is everybody getting the emails? Because I try to send this out. So just want to verify that I'm not missing anybody's email. I know you called me, Mr. Hurley.
I'm getting them, but just, if I can make this comment, please. I didn't get any of this information until last night. So I've had no time to study and look over what we're talking about here today.
And I can appreciate that because I didn't get it till yesterday, except for the minutes. So I can only provide it as soon as I get it, sir.
Where do you get it from, Ed?
Well, if it's coming from the auditors, it's depending
Okay.
what we're getting, but I didn't, the spreadsheet had to change, so that just came today. And I had the minutes. I think we may have sent you the minutes earlier. And the audit reports, the last draft just came in yesterday. So I can send it to you piecemeal as soon as I get it, but I can't send it to you if I don't have it.
Well, I think we need to work on that because frankly, it is very difficult to read all this and assimilate it, especially for those working stiffs, and come to this meeting as prepared as we should be. And back to the thing about the funding request, it seems to me if somebody's coming to me asking for funding, they need to adjust their schedule around mine and the rest of the board as opposed to us adjusting ours around theirs. It's a height of arrogance to assume that we're going to be here whenever they want us to be. And I can just tell you, August 15th will always be a problem. Go, Barbara.
Mr. Brown wanted to speak, are you?
Oh, yeah.
State your name, please.
Phil Braun with UF Health Central Florida. Just to be clear, we're happy to be here. I don't know where the indication that it's around our schedule. We come when we're told the meetings are. I mean, we'll come. I mean, it's not us dictating your schedule. It's you getting a quorum together.
Yeah, that's true, Phil.
You guys getting a quorum. So
But-
please don't think we're trying to tell you when to meet. We're not.
But the attorney threw you a little bit under the bus, so therefore I had to.
No, what I heard was that you all couldn't come up with a quorum. date that worked for everybody. We're happy to meet. We'll send a presentation when we're told the presentation. I mean, it would be nice to stick to your schedules and calendar events because everyone has a lot of things on their plates, but we will definitely be there. You will not, we will work around you.
Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it.
So I do have a question about getting at least our budgets. It's not easy to get them any earlier than the day before. It's pretty much, I know that this one is because it was a special meeting. I know that we had talked about that in the past. And the reason we did, I proposed this special meeting is because, as you all know, in years past, people were setting the millage without the board's conversation involved in it. And I felt that it was important for this board to have comment to set that tentative millage.
Fair. Now, we'll certainly do a much better job of getting it to you guys faster. We were just holding off to get the MSL reports for the, to put in the, tentative actual columns. So that was the holdup, and we didn't get those until the very end. So.
And I would like to make a comment. Both of these the two groups that we have just hired have really done a phenomenal job. They're very thorough, very easy to work with. I get an email, and right away, I know, Ricky, you signed the checks too. The system is flawless. As far as I'm concerned, the organizational part of it is flawless, and I appreciate that.
If I may, let me add one question. I don't have any problems with the accounting because they're new and we're learning each other, but how often do we look at, we just got new accounting, but Meredith, how long have you been our board attorney? 4 years, 6 years, 5? Too long? Not long enough? I don't know. Approximately.
Since 2008.
Okay, so that's, 15 years? I sell a lot of tires to people, and I usually win all the bids because I'm cheap. I don't have overhead my competitors have, but I have to bid every time I do it, and every now and then I lose. It usually has nothing to do with price. It has to do with some dictatorial things they send from Washington for disadvantaged businesses. But nevertheless, that's all well and good. But I think, we should look at this. Most of us all believe in term limits as conservatives. I think most people are here. I think we need to look at that, maybe every 4 years or something, and just, and give you an opportunity to reapply too, and you'll probably win it because I doubt anybody would want to work with us, but just in case,
Whatever the board desires, I'll be glad to do an
I know
RFP
you
or
will.
put out whatever you want me to do.
Well, what about it, Barbara? You think it's something we should talk about?
I do agree with you a little bit, Ralph, as far as sometimes change is needed. I actually want to give you that option of what you want to do. If that's something, if you feel like you want to continue as this board attorney, or if you are willing to step down at this point and we put out.
I'm willing to stay on, but also note since that time period, I haven't changed my rates either.
Yeah.
And you probably should.
And
We might appreciate you more.
Well, in that case, I will.
And just so that you, the people out there knows, I think we budget, $11,000 a year for attorney fees. So her rates they definitely have not changed, I know that. So, I think any more conversation on this?
It does not hurt my feelings to have the items that we need to review piecemeal to me. I don't know if it's harder for you to keep track of, because you wouldn't know it.
No, sir, we'll be glad to send it to you piecemeal.
Piecemeal, I'll review the documents as they come in, so that's not a problem.
Be glad to send it that
Yeah.
way.
Anybody else on the board oppose that? Instead of getting the whole packet, you get the information as she gets it.
Fine with me.
Go for it.
All right.
It's fine, yeah. So for me, the most important, well, they're all important. The audits are important, but the budget is really important because I spent half the day today going over it. I went over it yesterday when I got it, and then I spent half the day crunching numbers. So it would be nice to have it sooner, but I get it. I know that we're a funding entity, and I know that sometimes it is hard to get those numbers crunched on your end to get to us. All right. So we kind of went off the beaten path here for the special meetings, and we decided that, Ms. Cotterson, you were going to check on those dates and see if we can move anything around. Once again, I know that we're all extremely busy, and I know my schedule, as well as everyone else in this room, gets filled up very, very quick, and it is hard to change, so I understand.
Barbara, I will let you know that we have only a certain amount of time after the 14th. We have to advertise, then we have to do the final. Trim has asked for the final budget meeting dates so that they can coordinate, because everything has to be done by October 1st. Of course, last year we had the hurricane, so that messed us up. So they're trying to make sure everybody moves it further into September as we can to get it done before getting into any disasters.
Of course. Even if we could do it just the day before, if it's a Wednesday instead of a Thursday, it doesn't have to be a Thursday as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't bother me.
Okay.
Usually, most of the conflict is whatever day the
They-
school board's meeting here, the water authority's meeting here, when the room's available.
And we cannot hold it on the same day as the school board. Cannot.
In fear of them going over their time, or?
Just trim regulations.
Oh, okay, trim regulations, okay, I get that.
Just thinking outside the box, I mean, we don't have that many attendees typically. Could we not use the school board headquarters possibly for these meetings if that was, made it more options for us?
I don't know that we can use that. I can check into it.
No, I mean,
Well, do they have, are we required to be recorded as a recording studio?
yeah, it's live whenever they have it,
Up there.
yeah.
We also have to have a clerk recording.
The minutes have to be recorded, but I don't know that the meeting itself has to be live.
I don't think the meeting has to be live, but there has to be recording of the meeting.
Yes.
But I can check into the school board if we can meet there. And are there any dates that you cannot meet?
Well, it's just, I'm not so much for this meeting, I'm just saying as options going forward, whenever you say, well, we can't do it just because they got this going on. They don't have that much going on at the school board, except school board meetings, right?
Right.
That just opens up a possibility just in case.
Our meetings have to be held after 5, Monday through Friday, and anytime on Saturday. We cannot hold them on Sunday.
And keep in mind, we can't use the clerk, I don't think, off-site, because that came an issue
Oh.
last time we moved
And the
to
meeting-
Leesburg.
To
We
Leesburg.
had to have a court reporter, which was extremely expensive to have a
Oh,
court
okay.
reporter there.
You're right.
No, well, that might be the issue.
That was because of the hurricane, and we had to move everything around. You're correct on that. So we're still on the budget and scheduling meetings. You're going to get back with us in the next couple of days. So let's go to C, and that's the discussion of the budget scenario worksheet to determine a proposed tentative millage rate to be submitted to the Lake County Property Appraiser. And I do believe all of you, except Ricky, Mr. Harper, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call you by your first name. Did you get the new sheet down there?
I've got one in front of me.
Do you want to know what,
Packet?
no, did he get the new one?
Okay, I got it in front of me.
Okay, do you know what's changed on it?
I'm looking.
Okay, it's,
I can speak to all that if you.
it's right here. And do you want to give the members of the audience? This is the new.
We have the option there.
I see it.
Did you see that? This is not it. This is the new one.
So initially included in the packet was a preliminary budget worksheet, scenario worksheet as requested. We were requested to create for the discussion of the trustees tonight. And that was modified this morning to reflect some of the tentative costs that we thought were going to be more realistic, give you a more realistic example of where we're going to settle for the current fiscal year. So in the packet, compared to the handout that was just provided now, the changes were in the expenditures of the actual column. That should be the only change. And because of the change, we printed and made extra copies in case anybody needed to see that. So this packet is, this page is a summary scenario for the millage rates as requested by the trustees. You can see the first column to the right of actual, and right, it says 23-24 budget. Right below that it says 1, which is the full 1 millage scenario. Below that you would see the ad valorem taxes, associated interest, the fund balance expected at the beginning of the year. Below that becomes the expenditures, and then the medical care provided by both the clinics and the hospitals. And then to the right of that, you can see what was adopted in the prior year. And then to the right of that, you'll see other scenarios based on 0.75 millage, 0.5 millage, 0.25 millage, just trying to create a spread across the spectrum of 1 millage to give the trustees every opportunity to consider some of the scenarios that you may be running through your head.
Do we have a conversation? Someone wants to start the conversation? I'll start the conversation if no one wants to start it. So in the rollback rate, I tried to crunch some numbers to try to figure out, is the rollback rate 0.44, close to 0.44%?
In order to not confuse anyone, the trustees, we tried not to make that any assumptions. That information typically comes from the property appraiser.
Yeah,
And we
okay.
don't have, it's just not available yet.
Okay. Gentlemen?
Well, I'm guessing, as I recall, I saw something Kerry had posted about he expects to be a 13% increase overall in valuations. So if our amount last year was 0.5, would not the rollback rate be, 0.435 or something like that? I mean, assuming Kerry's correct.
Good.
Yeah.
That could be.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
what I figured in
All
that,
right.
that range. Okay. Mr. Harper, Mr. Truman? Any thought?
Well, I'll start it for discussion if you want to. I'm just going to be blunt and very honest. When I got elected to this board a couple of years ago, as many of you recall, we had money left over from the COVID thing, and I met with Mr. Ed Jimenez at UF Shands. I went up to his office in Gainesville the morning before the meeting, and a very nice gentleman, and we had good conversation. I don't believe he's no longer in that position. And anyway, we discussed this, and one of the first things he blew me away with as the CEO of UF Shands, and I know he isn't speaking for Advent, but he was speaking for one of the 2 major hospitals. He told me philosophically he didn't necessarily believe that ad valorem taxes should be used to fund the needs of hospitals, and that kind of shocked me. And we had a good conversation, but he did say, we would request that you not cut us off cold turkey, that you wean us off of it. And fortunately, we had, about $5 million, I think, left over. And so we were able to give, if I recall correctly, both the major hospitals about 1.3 million that year, which was a big drop from 4 million or whatever they got the previous year under the previous group, and fund all the clinics fully at their request. But I also told them then, I said, philosophically, at the meeting that night, I said, philosophically, myself and the guy from UF Shands agree. My heart says, yeah, we should definitely fund the clinics. I don't think the hospitals are really in need of it. I used an analogy earlier today with someone I was talking about. I'll tell you who it was. It's Keith True now. And, I imagine Elon Musk when he was 13 years old, and maybe his mom was giving him $100 a month allowance because he needed it, to buy his girlfriend, candy and go out to dinner or whatever. And all of a sudden, 35 years later, she realizes that $100 going out of her bank account to his is still going there. And she says, oh, Elon, I'm going to quit giving you that money. And he says, but Mom, I need it. I like it. I like money, He definitely doesn't need it. And so it's kind of the same analogy I'd say with the hospitals. They definitely don't need it. It's probably a good idea when the whole thing started and for many years was necessary and helpful and the right thing to do. But being our governor has been a real big proponent of getting rid of some of these great deals, these special districts, and the big one, of course, is Disney. South Lake did away with this. Our previous governor took care of that. And this one, we had a vote about 7 or 8 years ago. And the hospitals, congratulations, did a great job of PR and selling themselves. And we had a vote. And so the voters voted to continue it for 10 years, I believe. And I think it comes up in 2 or 3 years for another vote. So, but philosophically, I just don't think, even for wonderful entities like hospitals, that people should be required to give money that they may or may not wish to donate. Certainly, everybody that is in favor of it could still write a check for the same amount, and even more so. But those that may want to give it to other charities or needs, or be just selfish people and go buy lotto tickets or beer or whatever. I mean, it's their damn money, right? I mean, that's the bottom line. And so, frankly, I'm going to support zero this year. Period. I think this board needs to go away and disappear and become a part of history. And we move on. And when there's needs, we have a county commission that can step in when something unusual happens and do this thing much more professionally than our board with a handful of people and that do a very good job. Not complaining at all about our attorney and our accountings and all that, but I think I trust the Lake County Commission a lot more, to be honest with you, than I do our board, even myself. So that's going to be my point.
Mr. Harper?
Whatever our guidelines need to be to keep our funding in place for the next 2 or 3 years to cover what we're required to recover at the end of the day. So we can debate all who gets paid what amounts at the hospital, but I don't have no control what.
Do you have yours on?
Yeah. I have no control what hospital people make and how they distribute their money. All I can do is help where we're at right now for the next 2 or 3 years, and that's my responsibility. We'll fulfill that.
Mr. Truman?
Well, it looks like, there's a discrepancy in the numbers. Looks like our first quarter budget, the numbers are less than what they have been. But I don't know that reflects the way it's going to continue to be, with inflation being what it is, with the influx. And I don't know, the hospitals can tell us how we're being affected by illegals that might be coming to our area that would probably qualify as indigent care. So I don't know. I appreciate Ralph Smith. He's a friend of mine for a long time. Appreciate what he has to say. Can't say that I agree with it altogether. When the hospitals come with their requests, we'll know more about what we're talking about. As far as what I see here tonight, we kind of got the cart before the horse. How can we talk about what's needed when we don't know what's needed? How can we talk about what we're going to fund or not going to fund when we don't know what's needed? So I'm just kind of the opinion, that we've all been elected, put in this position to take care of people that are less fortunate. If you've never raised a child without insurance, then you don't know how some of these people out here feel. Personally, I have. And I know the nightmare, the terror, don't let him play football because he might break his neck. You can't do anything about it. And there's a lot of people in our world that are that way today. So I'm not for just riding off into the sunset and hoping that somebody fixes the problem. When we've been elected to fix the problem, take care of people, and I'm going to do that to the best of my ability.
Respond. If I may respond, unless I appear to be a heartless cad, which I probably am, but nevertheless, in this regard, that's not an issue. The hospitals are nonprofits. Via the federal law, they are required to take care of indigent care either way. Basically, it's called double dipping. a little bit what I do in the tire business sometimes, with my deals when I make my vendors and that sort of thing. Sometimes they give us, different advantages for buying a lot of product at certain times and certain tires. But nevertheless, I will promise you, the care of indigents and poor are not going to suffer one iota in Lake County, period. Matter of fact, I will tell you, if I was going to use personal anecdotes, and I'm not a big fan of that because I think it's all, everybody's got a story, right? And so we can always use our stories to justify our beliefs. But if I was going to do that, I'd much rather go to South Lake. And my experiences at Advent have been horrific in the emergency room with kidney stones. And South Lake, which doesn't have this, have been wonderful. I mean, unbelievable. Now, of course, I'm not fortunately in the situation as an indigent, but I don't think they asked, Ralph, do you have enough money? I mean, obviously we had the insurance and all, but the people I saw there were of all types, in the emergency room and all. And I don't think even the people representing the hospital would tell you you're going to get worse care if this thing disappears than you get in South Lake currently without a tax board that's taking money from local taxpayers and property taxes. I mean, I don't want to speak for y'all. Y'all welcome to disagree with me if you want to, but.
Done?
Yeah.
All right. So I would like to give my comment too. Many in this room know, they know how I feel. I've been talking about this battle for going on my 5th year now. And I see it happening more so now than in the last 4 years as we've been setting our tentative millage and our final budget millage. My feeling on this is I'm seeing more people struggle. I'm seeing more people in food banks. I'm seeing more people that are losing everything, and I am not a tax-happy person. I see people that own houses. My husband and I, we actually service some of the housing industry. We are appraisers by trade, and we are starting to see foreclosures, just like we did in 2008, 2006, 2008. People are struggling. I am not willing to go any higher for a tentative millage tonight, but to 0.25. That's all I have.
Mark, can I ask you a question? As I understand, what we're doing tonight isn't setting thing. I know we get a point where when we set a certain millage, we can't go above that. We can go below that. Tonight, we could say 0.25, 0.15, 0.0, 0.9, whatever. We can still go higher, right?
No.
No.
After tonight.
Oh, tonight
we
is
set a
that night. Okay.
Because what
I thought we
happens-
were just like informing people of our position.
No,
Okay.
tonight is a tentative millage rate that gets presented to the property appraiser so he can do his trim notices with proposed trim notices that are going out to homeowners.
Okay, I misunderstood. Well, then, yeah.
We cannot go up in our millage. Whatever we set today, we cannot go up. We can go down, stay the same, or go down, but we cannot go up, whatever you set tonight.
Okay, can I respond to that?
Just please.
So if we establish 0.25, how do we know that's going to be enough money to meet the requests that come in?
Okay, so my point on that is, if you have a budget at home, and you set, let's say you set a yearly budget, you don't know what you're going to make that year probably. You may get a raise, you may get less income, but you're going to be somewhere in that middle. You're going to, as far as I look at it, you need to be a little frugal. And that's where I stand, and I won't vote for anything but 0.25 to start out with tonight, because I'm here, yes, I'm here to represent all of the people in North Lake County. However, I'm seeing way too many people struggle, and I'm not ready to tax people even more. Yes, Mr. Braun? Sure.
Can you come up here, please, Phil?
procedural question. I'm not sure that there can be a vote on the millage tonight. You do have the final? Because
Yes.
as of this morning, I didn't
It's
think you had it.
18,411,000.
That's a tentative or a final?
Well, he's tentative because,
Okay, per the Department of Revenues says that you get that on July 1. That's when you get the final property appraiser. That's what I read at the Department of Revenue. Is that correct? So you are setting a millage prior to getting the property values, which I think you can't do. I'm not positive, but I don't think you can.
we're setting a
According-
tentative millage. We're not setting a
No, the
millage.
tentative millage, though, for trim purposes, is based on the full value of all the properties. You're supposed to have that. I just read it in the Department of Revenue. You're supposed to have that information. That is why nobody sets their tentative millage until after July 1. Most of them set them by August. That's what every other taxing authority does. So I'm just asking the procedural questions to your attorneys and your CPAs and anybody who understands the trim law better than me. How you can have this vote today, you should have waited until you got that information, and like the rest of you, procedurally, I think you're misstepping.
Well,
Ms.
Mr.
Meredith?
Braun, thank you for that, but we did set a tentative millage last year.
We can do a tentative, we cannot do adopt a budget yet, but based on the millage, but we can do a tentative, and Ms. Price is correct. Once it's set, and I verify that with the property appraisers after July 1st, you cannot go up.
Well, what good does it do to set a tentative if you can't change it?
Yeah, that don't,
You can go down, you cannot go up.
Can't go down.
Can't go up.
why would we want to go set such a low tentative budget?
Well, I kind of look at it this way, you kind of work in within your means. Just because we can do a millage at 1, it says we may. Every year for the last 30 years or whatever, it was assumed it would be a 1 mil to start out with. It should never be. It should never be. You cut your cost of living expenses, I'm sure. And that's exactly how I feel. I could be wrong, and I'd be gladly to admit it, but I'm seeing too many people hurting, and I know I've used this excuse many times, and I just won't. I'm not going to vote for anything higher than 0.25 this year.
Why not set it at 1? If we can come down, then.
You start out high, you're not going to come down. You're not going to.
And if you start out low, you're not going to go up.
No, you can't.
Once again, nobody's disputed my assertion that the indigent will not be harmed if you go to 0. The only valid argument, in my opinion, is the funding of the clinics.
Could maybe we hear from the clinics and the hospitals to see if that statement you just made is true?
Okay, sure, I think that'd be a great idea.
Do we have a public comment cards up here? Or just one of you can, do you want to do a public comment card?
Sure. Where are they? Oh, sure, yeah.
Do you have a pen?
Barry, you don't need to do the cards, it's your discretion.
I can, how about I throw it out and get it to you after I speak, is that meant for efficiency purposes? I just wanted to thank you guys for your service. I know it's, you're not compensated, it's work for the community, and it's not easy work. One of the things I would say is that to the idea of knowing what they're going to request, I would suspect that they're going to request as much as they can get. They're going to want as much money as possible, and they're going to use flowery language and try to justify it with sob stories about how people won't get care. But there is Medicare and there is Medicaid. And in Clay County, where I own a home, and I'm considering moving here because I love this community, and that's why I'm interested in this and have been interested in this fight, they don't have a hospital board, and people are not turned away from the emergency room. And so, again, there are laws in place where you cannot be refused care. That's federal law and all kinds of laws. And so what I think it seems like what is happening is we ask, how much do you need, guys? And it's like if you ask your children how much they want their allowance to be, they're probably going to tell you a lot higher than what is needed. And one of my favorite quotes is Ronald Reagan once said, "The closest thing to eternal life here on earth is a government program." When's the last time a government program rolled back expansion, rolled back, whether it's, the debt ceiling fight that we recently had in Congress, that was simply to return to pre-COVID levels of spending, and we couldn't even agree to do that. So I commend you for saying we need to set it low and let them live within your budget. I commend what Commissioner Smith said, and Board Member Smith and Price both, because they will live within their budgets. And if the CEO needs to shave a couple $100,000 off their multi-million-dollar salary to help provide that care, I think they can figure out how to do that. But I don't think they should come to you and say, this is how much you should force taxpayers to pay. Because let's not get this isn't charity. We're not talking charity. We're not talking about the kindness of our hearts. We're talking about using the power of government, the police power of government, to force people to pay taxes so that they can have millions and millions of dollars in their salary. And like Ralph said, or Mr. Smith said, if you want to give to a hospital, there's lots of opportunities. They'll probably even name a building after you, one of the new shiny, bright new buildings they're building. They'll name that after you if you give to them. But why are we going to force the same indigent people who are struggling to stay in their home? We're going to add to that so that they can go into their slush fund. And I know that the accounting is a tricky thing. My brother's a tax accountant. It all goes to the same place. It's the same argument Planned Parenthood uses. We don't use any taxpayer dollars. We just take that money and build stuff, and then we use other money to fund abortion. Money can sometimes be fungible, and I think you guys know that, and so I commend what you're doing. I think you should set it as low as possible and make them work within that budget. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Anthony Sabatini, Lake County resident, Howie in the Hills. First, I just want to begin by pointing out the extremely obvious fact of how stupid and absurd the board's existence is. Lake County, as you all know, is a very long county. There's North Lake and there's South Lake. Because of courageous conservative Republicans like Larry Metz working hand tooth and nail for years, we finally beat these guys with all their lobbyists in Tallahassee to delete the Southern District. They lied and said the whole world was going to fall down and people would be begging in the streets. Folks, that never happened. South Lake is doing better than ever. So now, after 4 years of fighting in Tallahassee, they spent hundreds of thousands of lobbyists against the conservatives there to keep up the existence of this disgusting and terrible taxpayer corporate welfare board that should not exist. And they squeaked through, kept it again. And guess what they're doing now? They're walking into this room because their employers are telling them to tell you to hire my taxes, my family's taxes, the people who live in this community, steal our money and give it to somebody else. If you vote for anything above zero millage, you're stealing our money. You are stealing our money. And you're giving it to somebody else. It's disgusting. It's wrong. And to answer your question, how much do they need? They're going to tell you every single day they need as much money as you can give them because this is their job. Okay? They work for these entities. They want you to steal our money to give to them. It's wrong. It's the wrong thing to do. It's what a supermajority of Lake County residents don't want you to do. That's why we're a very Republican county. Please vote for zero. Have the courage to vote for zero and stop stealing our money.
Thank you. Do we have any more public comment? I would just like to add one thing also that I just thought about is that our taxpayers are paying into this fund. And yes, they voted on it. Most people didn't know what they were voting on, to be perfectly honest. However, what really bothers me is we're taxing our taxpayers, our homeowners, which most have probably health insurance. So they go to the doctor, which this doesn't cover a doctor visit, but they go, let's say they go to the hospitals, and then they have a $5,000 deductible before services are rendered. So we're taking money from them to give to the indigent, which I'm all for the indigent. I give I give lots of money to charities. But I just see something wrong with the people that are making their house payments that they own, making their insurance payments so they have health insurance, getting taxed to help out, but then getting hounded because they need a procedure done, and you haven't met your $5,000 deductible, and you are hounded. And I've been in the hospital with my mom. I've told you all this before. She has Medicare, low deductible, but she was harassed for her deductible as I sat in the emergency room next to her, and a nurse comes in from the patient next to her, pulls back the curtain. This is the old days when they did not have individual rooms. And the nurse leans on her bed and just like, that's the 5th time that person's been in here, and they don't even have insurance, and we just give them what they need, and they go on. And the same 5 minutes later, they're in there harassing my mother for money. Okay? That's part, I don't really want to put my emotion into it, but I've heard that scenario over and over and over and over. And so that's just where I stand. Mr. Braun, did you like to speak, please?
Bill Braun with UF Health, Central Florida. Born and raised in Lake County. Lived here all my life. Know a lot of you, know a lot of people here. I won't scream at you. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to get all riled up and crazy about it. I'll try to answer some questions. I'm pretty passionate about healthcare. I could get passionate about it, but I don't even understand it. Where can I start? Because there was a lot of questions, so I'm hoping I don't run over time, but I heard a lot of questions. Let me start with the big picture. God, do we ever look at the big picture of healthcare instead of the little picture, right? The big picture of healthcare. No, we're not going to turn away indigent people. We're going to provide care. We're going to provide the best we can. But that care costs. There's no free lunch. Nothing's free. Nothing you get. Your roads aren't free. Nothing you get is free. Healthcare is not free. We are losing money. Our operating money is losing money for the last 3 years. We're losing money. We're not big, rich corporations. We're losing money for the last 3 years in our operation. So in other words, the cost to provide care to Lake County residents as a whole, the cost to provide the care, we pay more than we take in every day. So I don't know where this idea that it will just keep happening. Yeah, it will. We have some reserves because we're smart and we invest our money, so we have reserves because we know. But eventually it does. The mandate, the federal mandate, is we can treat you and release you. But that doesn't really fix your problem. That just kicks the can down the road. So we can do that. That's all we have to do. But we do so much more than that. We do, and you know it, and you may not want to believe it, but we do. We do a lot of good work, and it's a public-private partnership. There are very few for-profit hospitals in Lake and Sumter County, and you know why? There are no for-profit. Why? Well, because there's no profit to be made. If there was, HCA would have 5 hospitals in this market. So think about that. And no, you know what happens though? As we lose money, it affects your care, my care at some point, right? Because how long can you lose money before you don't? And will the indigent not get served? Yeah, they'll get served. But you know what? They'll probably be facing a bill. They'll probably, because we're not talking about people that don't have any money. We're talking about working poor, people that have money. So their debt, they can be collected on. And we have a right to collect money for services that are provided. Now, it's hard. And this board and this funding helps prevent a lot of that, which I think is a good thing for the Lake County residents. But eventually, the big picture is as we take in less money, care for everyone suffers at some point. I mean, maybe it's not on the street, but are you going to get better care in Tampa? Yeah, you're gonna. You're gonna, because the payer mix, that's the other thing. Let's talk about payer mix. You talk about the health care like you understand it, but yet you don't understand the payer mix. You don't understand how it works. And we've tried over the years to bring presentations and educate and provide information. But when we're closed ears and we don't listen, we don't appreciate it. And now I'm talking as a taxpayer. I pay my taxes. I pay that. Do I want them? I don't like taxes. I'm a conservative. I don't like taxes. But I know that we have things we have to pay for as a society, as a community. And we are reimbursed for actual care at, on average, below cost. So there's no profit we're making by billing the district for that urgent emergency care, that heart attack that somebody doesn't plan to have. We get reimbursed. There's no profit from it. It's not like you're just giving us money and we don't verify it. Sure, I'll be glad to answer any questions and help educate anybody who would like to on how hospital finances work.
I just want to just address one of the things that you said. You don't have to, he doesn't have to stand up. You talked about, our taxes, if we cut our taxes for other things, not just the hospital district, for our roads and our individual living atmosphere. When we pay our taxes to our county and our cities and our state, it's for the good of all people. All people are benefiting from those taxes. This particular entity is a special taxing district. Am I saying it's wrong? No. Am I saying it's right? No. I'm saying it's not fair to everyone in North Lake County. That's my argument. Do I understand the billing? I'm going to tell you something. I had a $5,000 bill from Waterman for a simple mistake, clerical mistake, and I refused to pay it. So I let it go into collections, and I'm still paying it because I was so mad that no one would work with me. And I've been paying $100 here and $100 there in collections because I was so upset and it was clearly it was a medical necessary item, and it was stated on the order, and it was put in wrong, and I contacted everyone at that hospital, and they would not do anything. So here I'm paying taxes, and I'm trying not to let my own emotions get into this, but I'm paying taxes. I'm being reprimanded because because somebody made a mistake, a clerical mistake that wasn't corrected. So therefore, the whole thing just, I want it to be for every homeowner that has a piece of property that they're paying taxes on in this community. It's not that I'm pointing out someone. I'm just very passionate about making people that carry the health insurance being, what do I want to say? I'm trying to think of the correct word. I don't want to say targeted because that's not a good word, but they're being reprimanded and by having increased taxes for the special hospital district. I am not against the hospital district. I am not against it. I'm against how it's organized. Let's put it that way. I just don't think it's fair to all taxpayers in the county, in the North Lake part of the county. Yeah, I was just addressing him. Any more public? Sorry, I turned off my mic. Any more public comment? Please come up and state your name.
Hi, good evening. Erin Burley, Catholic Charities, Director of Clinics. We have St. Luke's Clinic in Eustis. We're the smallest of all the clinics, but Mr. Hurley, you said you would like to hear from the clinics, so I'd just like to tell you a little bit. One of the comments was about undocumented workers coming to the county, how would it affect it? We don't get reimbursed for anybody that's undocumented, so that's not going to really affect us. But, we keep talking about people going to the emergency room and receiving care, but what about the people that aren't going to the emergency room? What about us keeping people out of the emergency room? We're trying to control people's hypertension, their cholesterol, their diabetes, infections, and the work that we do as the clinics is try to keep them out of the hospitals so the hospitals don't have to be spending that money, and then the hospitals don't have to become a primary care center. So I just wanted to,
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name,
Erin Burley.
Aaron. Ms. Brimley, that is my argument, and it has been my argument, that I think the clinics play a very important role in our community. And I would like to see exactly what you just said. I know St. Luke's, I know they do a good job. I know that they don't necessarily get as many patients, and they don't get very much funding either. I like having the education part to train people how to live correctly, to keep them out of the hospitals. And so I applaud you. Thank you.
Thank you. The other issue too is we keep talking about people in the community who own homes, but there's a lot of people in our county that don't own homes, and those are the people that most of the people that we serve are not homeowners. But there are people in very difficult times right now and that need our help. So I just wanted to make that point.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I got a question, and maybe you can help me understand this. As I said earlier, 2 years ago, I told everybody that was here, y'all need to figure out alternative sources of funding because I think this is going away eventually. And I don't know if anybody took me seriously or not, but just, there's a group here called Life's Choices in Lake County. They get no funding from anyone. It's all goodwill funding. They work their butts off. They have a walk. They have a big event where they have a named speaker and all. And I don't know the exact numbers right now. I haven't been following it, but I'm thinking this year they've got about, with the events coming and the one they have coming up in fall. Last year, I think they did about $250,000 at their one event. They had a couple walks and roughly 100,000. So I'm going to guesstimate around 350,000. I know most of the clinics, and y'all probably operate on less than that even, right? Do y'all do anything outside of saying just thank y'all for the money? Do y'all work outside to try to raise?
This is not our sole funding source at all.
Okay, good.
We apply for grants, we do fundraisers. This is not our sole funding source.
All right. What kind of fundraisers do you do? Because like I said, I'm not heartless. Mine's comes from a standpoint of principles. I just don't think people should be forced to donate to an organization, but I'm all about goodwill giving. And if indeed this does go away or it becomes less where you don't get the kind of money you want, I might be thrilled about helping you out just like I do Life's Choices. There might be others in here, and we might encourage some of our friends because the free will thing I'm all about, right? The point I'm getting at, what kind of fundraiser y'all do? I mean, I'm asking a personal question now, but I mean, I'm not aware of it. I haven't seen anything, but how do y'all get the word out?
Right now, we're doing a direct mail. It's through social media and mailing. It's geared particularly for dental right now, but we also do a lot of grant writing. For our other clinics, we do different. For each clinic, it's different, but for Eustis, we stopped doing specific events because we really, for the amount of time and money that it costs to have somebody plan it, we weren't receiving enough for it to be.
But do you ask for volunteers? Because I have a lot of friends that are retired.
We work primarily with volunteers. All our doctors, dentists, nurses are all volunteers. We have, besides myself, which I have 5 clinics, so I'm in that clinic part-time, we have 1 paid person.
They're medical professionals. I'm talking about just regular Joes who are good about raising money. There's people that will do that for you.
We don't have any of those right
I'm just throwing it out there for you. I mean, what is your...
It's easy, but it's not quite that easy to get people to.
I know. You walk before you run, obviously, but in regards to the fundraising thing, I mean, how much money do you do as far as outside entities that donate versus you get from funding from this organization?
Numbers off the top of my head.
Just a ballpark figure. What's your total budget? $500,000?
I would hate to misrepresent the numbers. I don't have them off the top of my head.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Sure. State your name, please, when you come up.
I want to thank y'all for working on this hard.
State your name.
My
State your
name is
name.
Connie. Last name is Hurlbert. I'll fill out a card for you if you want me to. Just an observation that I have made driving around the county. You see a lot of these critical care units, or I don't know what they call them. It's the ones you drive in. You don't have to make an appointment. Just show up.
Urgent.
Those are there's a lot of them being built. I think there's a new one just right up the street here. And it begs the question, why? Because if there is money in this, then those units should all be making money. I think the problem is that perhaps the hospital model is now a loser, and government should not be in the business of picking winners and losers.
Thank you. Any other public comments? I see no other public comments, so do we have any further discussion, or are we making a motion to vote on a tentative millage?
Right, I'd like to go to discussion.
Sure.
What is our current reserve what's our carryover financials from last year, dollars?
I don't think we try not to carry too much over.
The carry forward this past year was 162,000. That rolled into our 22-23 budget, and we're trying to make an estimate for the current year without all the
Okay.
known paying amounts.
And then what
Similar.
is, and then all the entities that have requested funding to their current budget is what number?
So the numbers that we have, based on some of the approvals tonight, is on the actual column, under expenditures and under medical care and clinics. That's the portion of the current year budget that's been approved for payment.
Approved for payment, and we're trying to, so Ms. Price, is it correct, you're trying to, is this $9,000 number we're looking at here? Or 9 million?
The 9 million.
9 million would include the ad valorem taxes, interest collected from those, as well as the carry forward of the budget.
And then the budget is 8 million.
The budget expenditures are 7.9 million.
Yeah. And so we're trying to propose that everybody cut by the funding that you're proposing, that 0.25 is cut everybody in basically 50%.
For the next fiscal year.
Yes, is that what you're proposing?
It is.
So,
I will tell you, because we're not doing a budget meeting tonight, I am 100% fully funding. I would like to see 100% fully funding all the clinics.
so does this 4.6 propose going to fund this, what they've proposed?
If they follow the same as years past, it should, with a little bit of, I think, the way I figured it at the 0.25 millage. If we pass that tonight, I think the hospitals would get some, not a lot. I think I figured maybe $600,000 each, somewhere in that ballpark.
Last year, I proposed 0.23, and they went with 0.50, and that funded just the clinics, so I think she's pretty close right on 0.25.
So the clinics have proposed, what is their actual number, 7.8?
Are you speaking about budget year 2022, 2023?
The proposed budget for their their next expenditures for next year.
We don't have that
We don't
yet.
have that.
We don't have
I'm
that.
basing my figure off of last year's proposed
Well, when we set this tentative meeting last time we met, I wanted to have numbers to look at, not just hypothetical. So we're looking at proposed last year versus what this year, not only what this year's costs are versus anybody's cost is. I'm very analytical and data driven, and I don't like looking at things I don't know. And I don't like voting on things I don't know. Does that make sense to anybody? I mean, I'd really like to know the data of if we're going to propose something that's marginally close.
We won't know that data till September.
The funding, so this meeting was put on the schedule from the January meeting at the
Correct.
discretion of the trustees to have the discussion. Prior to that decision, the funding request was August 17th, 2023. That's what the trustees have asked the hospitals and clinics. That's the date in which they've asked them to present that information.
Correct. So that's what I would, I would like to have that data in front of me, not a hypothetical that we're looking at last year's expenditures. I mean, if we're going to set a low budget, let's have something to match it to. I mean, a low, just 0.25. Where, you've given me a number, but it's hypothetical.
My, for wanting to go 0.25 is I based it after several years of what the fundings were, and they're usually pretty much the same every single year for the clinics. And that's where I came up with the 0.25, because I took like pretty much of an average of what they requested in years past. It's not like I didn't do any research.
Yeah, no, I understand you're doing your due diligence. I just don't understand why we need to set this. I mean, I understand what your thinking is, but, if we're going to fund this as the voters asked us to fund it, I don't want to shortcome our services to our community either.
Can I ask you a question?
I'm ready.
When did the voters ask us to fund this? Are you talking about the thing 7 or 8 years ago?
Correct.
Okay, let me tell you something. We've had some elections since then, okay? There were people vote on this board who very openly said in a newspaper prior to filing, so there was no sunshine violation, what their intention were. And those voters voted us in. And that happened far more recent than the vote they did 7 or 8 years ago. So therefore, what the voters did, just like, I take more credence in what they did more recently than what they did 7 or 8 years ago. Now, maybe, next time around they'll vote and it'll be a different thing.
That's up to them then.
Right, but if we're going to go by that, we're asked to make that decision. And talking about arbitrary numbers, there is an arbitrary number we have no control over. It's 1.0. Okay, the hospitals and clinics could come ask for $1 billion, and they're not going to get it. They're going to get $1 billion. That's the maximum. So, just setting a number to start out with. As I said, I'm divided on the clinics, and I appreciate what Mr. Braun said, and I will tell you, between the two hospitals, if I was going to give any money, I'd much rather give it to Shands than I would Waterman. But that's just me personally, okay? Because Waterman's awash in money, and I think Shands is a work in progress. But with that said, I just philosophically don't think it's our duty, and Mr. Braun conceded that nobody's going to be turned away, nobody's going to suffer medical. Long-term, maybe the hospitals will invest or not, but I don't think Lake County's going backwards. I think we're going forward with the villages and everything, and the payer mix is not going to be as bad as it has been in the past. Otherwise, I don't think Shands would have came over and took over Leesburg Regional in the first place.
And Mr. Harper, when I was figuring those figures, that was also including live stream in my figures, because I think the mental health is extremely important. So I know that they did get some, believe live stream might have gotten some appropriations from the state to do some expansion this year. But yes, that was including what I thought fully funding, hopefully in September, the clinics and live stream at their request. So that's kind of where I was going. Oh, we have to come. Please state your name as you come up.
My name is Nancy Wise. I'm a resident of Fruitland Park in the North County Hospital District and a tax-paying member. As a tax-paying member, I did vote 7 or 8 years ago, and I will say I want that was a much more clear vote. It was, we knew what we were voting for. It was pretty straightforward. When you're voting for members of the board, it's a little tougher to do research and know which board member and where they stand and what they're going to vote for. So, but when we voted 7 or 8 years ago, it was this, we wanted this to continue. The other thing I just would like to say is that I think this is premature. It's not required at this point, and I think we need to have the chance to hear from the clinics, to hear from the hospitals, and then make an educated decision. And limiting ourselves down to 0.25 at this point, I believe, is premature. We haven't had the budget meeting, and I think we need to hear all sides and have the statistics and the information in front of us.
Thank you.
And can I piggyback? Ms. Meredith, what is our legal guideline? I mean, we've kind of set a special meeting to do this, aren't we? Like August 14th is there a legal guideline to set this preliminary budget, or is it like any day we pick out of the year, we can just do it as we want?
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to defer to the trim experts that are
Yes.
here.
Yes, the committee or Barbara as chair can set a special meeting at any time.
Okay, well,
The timeline kicks in July 1st, and then we have, I believe, 105 days to complete the process of the trim and get everything certified to the property appraiser and to the trim in Tallahassee. Does that help?
thank you. Yeah, I'm just thinking.
Did we have someone else over there that wanted to speak? I thought there were two hands up.
There were two hands, too.
No, okay, all right. So we're at a point where we need to get a proposed motion, a motion to vote on this tentative millage.
Before we do that, could I say something?
Oh, Mr. Hurley, definitely.
I too am a conservative Republican. I don't use that as a club against anybody that doesn't agree with me. I'm also a homeowner, and I live in a pretty nice home in a pretty nice area. And I paid $90 last year. That's what we're talking about, $90. Took my family out to Outback last night for dinner and spent that on one dinner. And that's what we're talking about here tonight. We talk about, 0.25, and like it's millions of dollars. It's going to hit every little taxpayer in the county, and they're going to suffer, and they're not going to be able to eat, and they're not going to do that. I've been called a thief here tonight. I am not a thief, and I'm not about stealing anybody's money. And if these clinics and these hospitals are liars, I think we'll find that out. But as far as moving forward on this tonight, I am strongly opposed to it. If I was going to propose anything, I would propose 1 mil because we can bring it down. But the proposed 0.25 is nonsensical because we can't do anything about it but go down, and that means we'll just cut out all the clinics and everybody else. And so, I resent the things that have been said and the characterizations that have been made tonight. And I am not going to vote on something I don't know about. I was handed this, given this last night by email at 10 o'clock last night when I got home from work. And I worked today. Have no time to review any of this, and now I'm asked to propose something to lock us in so that no matter what comes up between now and August or September, we're going to be locked into it. And I'm not going to do that.
Can I make a comment? I understand what you're saying, Mr. Hurley, and on your individual one, but let me just do a little math here. Let's do the 1 mil. That's 18 million approximately. For the sake of argument, let's say there's 150,000 people in this area that's affected by this tax. If you do the simple math, it really comes down to $120 a person, okay, or $480 for a family of 4. You say, well, no, mine's only $70. There's 2. That's $35 a person. What you don't understand is businesses like mine and others and much bigger ones, some smaller ones, we pay this tax too, everything. And bottom line, it's for the residents of North Lake, right? And so the bottom line, you're paying it. You just don't see it. When you come down to my tire shop and buy a set of tires, there might be, if we were to sit down and figure it all out, maybe 30 cents per tire went to this. You just don't know about it. When you go over to Fish Camp and have one of those Big Mouth Ralph hamburgers, there might be 15 cents in that hamburger that's going. That's why I'm saying everything you buy, it's these hidden taxes you don't see. So it is higher than that. And once again, it comes down to really, mine's just a principle thing. It's it's corporate welfare, guys. It's that simple. We've taken money required from people. You know, I'm not fortunate enough to have you as my pastor, but if I went to your church, I might tithe a little less because of this. And if you do it, I'm not saying I will. I'm just saying it's the reality. People can channel their money where they want. They can give every penny to this. They can double their tax. Those that are really in favor of this and believe these hospitals really need the money. If I was going to do that, and I'm not saying I won't, if they have some fundraisers, I may participate. I would help the clinics. Because I do that with Life's Choices big time. I'm a big fan of them because they save babies from getting murdered. But with that said, everybody has their particular thing. And so it's just a principle thing. I love basketball. I wish they'd build a gymnasium like they did down in Lakeland so we could have state tournaments here and win championships. But you know what? If it doesn't make money, if it's the private sector, if they can't make it happen, I don't think you should be forced to pay for my entertainment at the basketball stadium any more than I should be forced to pay for hospitals that supposedly need the money. And of course, we all need money, that are going to get it anyway from because their tax exempt status from the federal government, and they're here. The whole idea behind this thing, if you go back to the history, was to incentivize hospitals to come to Lake County because back in the day, we were a little podunk county that didn't make sense to have medical care here. And we didn't have helicopters that could fly us to Orlando in 15 minutes back then. And so it made perfect sense to do that. And so the whole idea, but like everything, has a shelf life. And, we can agree to disagree on when that shelf life is. But if we're not there now, we're real close to it. Or maybe we're past it and we're still trying to keep it going. I'm just saying these things are going away, special districts. I believe in what Ron DeSantis is doing in our state by and large. I've talked to every one of our legislators, and they won't act, but they totally agree this thing should not be happening. And one CEO told me that. So that's my whole point. I don't dislike hospitals, although as I mentioned, I do like Blue Cedar a lot down in South Lake, so that's just a personal thing.
So I just wanted to say also that I don't want to make this a personal problem. When I figured the 0.25, it was for the best of both worlds, for the taxpayers, for the hospitals, for the clinics, to compensate somewhat, to give back, to the community, to we all sit up here, we all see what's going on in our county. We all see, especially the mentally ill, we see this. Mr. Hurley, as a pastor, I'm sure you probably see it even more so than what we do on a daily basis. And so I'm trying, when I say a tentative 0.25, it was with a lot of thought. It was not, I got this the same time you did. For me, I've done this a few years, and I looked at it, and I crunched numbers till 2 o'clock in the morning last night, trying to figure out the best scenario that we can give the taxpayers and these entities some help. It's not that, I don't think any of us are sitting up here heartless. I think we all we're very caring people, and I'm looking at it from both sides. I'm not looking at it from one side. I'm looking at it from both sides because, Lord help us that any one of us could be in that situation tomorrow. And I hope that we're not. I hope that none of us need to go to a hospital and asking for help. It can happen, and I'm trying to be level-headed with this scenario, and that's just kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, Ms. Price, can I interject? Sure. So the next meeting, August 14th, who is going to help? At that time, is that not, what's the reason we can't adjust in August 14th versus today? What is the?
can't, because it has to be provided to the property appraiser before the funding request. The tentative millage has to be provided to the property appraiser.
Then who's going to make the opinion on that tentative number after that?
We vote on that at the final budget, right?
I would only, we're here to provide information, not provide opinions, so just take this as only informative. The property appraiser on July 1st will put a mill on their certification of the tangible tax. And I think this is our first year with the organization, but I think there's been a characterization that someone chose that amount outside of the trustees. It is the PA, if there is no decision, the PA, the property appraiser, will insert the full mill so as to leave control of the decision with this special district board and trustees. To stay in compliance with TRIM, we would then certify the 1 mill on the advertisement that they have, and then once you guys set your final budgets, that number moves its way wherever it goes, and that's the process. So if nothing comes up tonight, they will insert 1.0 mil. It is just it's their procedures, not ours, and then we would have to then say yes, so certify that to stay in compliance, and then that still leaves the decision in the trustees' hands.
So my question to you is that, and for the board, is when Mr. Baker sends out those trim notices, and they're tentative notices, and a homeowner will, say, oh my gosh, this is what my bill's going to be. Last year it was this. I am not comfortable at setting at 1 mil for that reason, because then in September, when we do our final budget and we go down, if we were to go down, then they're confused. They're confused. Why was it here and then we're here? And that has happened a couple years in a row. So that's where my concern is.
Yeah, and I saw that when we had a zero budget. In fact, someone was trying to just, I don't know, you had too much in the slush fund or what was going on?
Almost $5 million left.
Yeah, too much, yes. So if you put a 1 mil in, it'd be way too much money. I see that doesn't work at all. To me, from what I see, what they're showing here is 8 million. In the 0.5 shows it at 9. I mean, can we do 0.04? I don't know what that comes out. I mean, can we get closer to what's proposed on the 8 million?
Can we hold that for just a second? We got one more comment from
Go ahead.
Mr. Braun.
I just want to make sure we're being transparent. Everyone understands the procedures that you were just explained to. And it is false that the board didn't know that the 1 mil was going on to the trim notices. The board and all other boards, and I've been coming to these meetings for a long time, they knew 1 mil was going on the trim notices. They knew they had the ability to hear the presentations in August, and they knew they could pull it down to whatever they want. The county doesn't is the county set their millage yet? Are they going to just, no, exactly. So has the school board set their millage yet? No. So they're not, and are they going to set it before July 1? Is the county or the city who has the bigger millage, much bigger on all our tax bills, right? Way bigger than $90 on your tax bill. They haven't set their 10 millage because they have budget hearings. And you're going to have a budget hearing in September, which is when you have all the public. Hopefully more people will come to the announcement from from Anthony about the meeting than did today, because I only see him, maybe one other. That meeting, that's the budget meeting. That's where you do that. I mean, if you shoot yourself in the foot now and set it at 0.0 or 0.1, you can't do anything in September. You might as well not even have the September meeting, except for you're required to have it. Why are you pigeonholing yourself before you have a budget? You haven't even set a budget. That's so, it doesn't even make sense how you could run an organization and set something with no budget, with no information. The submissions from the hospitals and the clinics haven't even been finished yet. It's absolutely crazy that you're doing it this early. I'm sorry, I can't sit back and listen to it anymore. It makes no sense. The county doesn't do it. The school board doesn't do it. Nobody else does it. Why are you doing it? Now, so just so you're clear, nothing happens if you don't set the millage. Nobody gets taxed. Nobody comes out of pocket. Nobody freaks out because we all know that's tentative millages. We all know that. How many people look at their tentative millage and think that's what it's going to end up being? How often does it end up being that? It never ends up being that. Cities change them. Everybody changes.
Thank you.
Bill, can I ask you a question? Number one, you promised you weren't going to yell at us. Uh-oh, it's his granddaughter.
You should take that.
Get that one. I can maybe
I
forget
didn't
my
think I
question.
was yelling. I apologize.
Let me ask you, I'm just curious, and it really has nothing to do with it. Just give an idea. What does the CEO of Shands make, or the local hospital, or do you make for that matter, the salary? I mean, is that public information? I mean, I don't want to.
I don't know what the relativeness of that, and
Just-
I don't personally know what they make. What do you make, Ralph? Yeah. Okay.
Last year, I think I made 75.
What do you make, Anthony? What did you make? I work a lot harder. I work a lot harder. I don't have to answer that question.
I was just curious. I was just curious.
What the tax district pays is a bill. What a tax district pays is the bill for the care that's provided. It has nothing to do.
The point is, I can look at all the sheriff's department guys, what they get paid, because they get paid tax dollars. And you guys, I understand this is just a drop in the bucket compared to what all the income you get from your other customers and all that. But I was just curious if there's any requirements, since you guys are, funded by the government in part as well. Is something you'd reveal voluntarily, or whether it's a public record?
You certainly can.
You don't have to answer. I answered yours. I make about 75 grand a year.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
I just want to make a comment also.
Now you're making it personal. I don't know why.
I just wanted to make a comment, Mr. Braun, when you said transparency. I will tell you that I sat on this board 4 years not knowing that we had an option to do that until I started reading, and I said, oh my gosh, we can set a tentative millage. Every year it was pushed through. It was never mentioned to this board when I sat on here. So it's not, talk about transparency. There was no transparency. So I am 100% for transparency, and that's why I am asking for a tentative millage set tonight.
And I'm being transparent that you pigeonhole yourself and you don't have to do it. There's no requirement to do it. And you made the comment there was a requirement that you had to do it, and that's not a requirement. That was really my whole point.
Thank you. Yeah, we're going to take one more.
Before you come, can I say something? I love this discussion. I think we're learning a lot about each other and some of this stuff. I'm learning, and I hope y'all are learning too. But anyway, I would just ask a question. You mentioned that you just found this out. Why did you just find this out?
Because I didn't know any different to research.
Who was supposed to tell you?
I don't know.
Okay. I brought this up a while ago, and it went nowhere. I mentioned we have an attorney who's been here 15 years, term limits, and I think everything should be looked at, and so I'm just asking, would it be a good idea possibly to consider, you guys want to do an RFP along with the current one, who I think, as far as I can understand, has done a good job, but I think it's good to look at fresh eyes, right? I mean, what's the downside? We may find out we're getting the best deal we could ever get, and bottom line, but then we'll know it. There won't be any question about it. And our job is not just be fiduciaries of this money that we're give to the clinics and the hospitals, but also to watch our expenses and costs as well, and make sure we're getting the best bang for the buck. So I don't know. Just y'all would anybody entertain? I'll make the motion. Entertain doing an RFP for a board attorney. Any comments, or anybody want to make a second? I'll make the motion.
The RFP is, in what guidance are we looking at in doing so? What is that going to entail? Bring it up.
Let's let them bring it to us and say, look, this is what I'll give you. This is what I can do, and this is our price, and Ms. Kirsty, I will tell you this. I was the only tire store in Tavares for many years, and when Palm Tire opened, they made me a lot sharper, okay? And because you know, after a while, we all get, I was a booster president to Barry's, raised a lot of money for 3 years. Now I got a little lazy, and then thank God somebody took my job, okay? It's just human nature, guys. I mean, that's what happens, and that's why there's so much push for term limits in a lot of issues in government. And I think nothing's different when it comes to, you know, people who work for the electeds. And so, anyway, I'm sure Ms. Kirsty wouldn't have a problem with it, because this isn't a big part of her income. I think it's more like a service to the county, like we're doing in regards, because we don't get paid either. So, anybody interested in making a second? I'll make the motion. If there's not a second, I guess he'll die, right?
I mean, I don't have any problem making a second on it.
Okay.
I mean, it's not.
Now, what do we do, Chairman? Do we discuss it or what?
You can discuss it, and
Which we've already been doing a little bit, but.
you can open for
I mean,
discussion. I don't-
I mean, he's got valid points. From what I know, it looks like she communicates well. I mean, I don't have any problems, but I mean, I understand what his positioning is. New eyes, I mean, that's just, we can bring it up for discussion. I mean, it's, or revisit it. I don't know.
You just need to,
Sometimes there's value in new eyes, and sometimes there's value in somebody old, established, that really has gone through it all. I mean, you bring somebody in.
You gotta relearn it.
Then they're like I am.
Yeah.
You know, they're trying to learn.
Start fresh.
Everything.
you know, we were fortunate with our two new additions, because they have been working with hospital entities.
Right.
So they kind of knew exactly, they kind of fell right in places. Am I correct?
Another hospital district.
Yeah, in Marion County, correct?
Correct.
So, I mean, you know, that is definitely something we need to think about. So, you know, open for, because that was one of my concerns when we, you know, of course, we had, at that time, we had people stepping down. So, but that was one of my concerns, is did they have experience, you know, stepping up to the plate? And they did. Because I don't know if you can go in blindly. I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna let you guys talk about this, and then we can take a vote, however you want to do it. Ms. Kirsty, would you like to have any talk in this?
I serve at the board's pleasure. If they want me to stay on, I'll be glad to do that. If the board wants an RFP, I'll be glad to do that also. It's whatever you instruct me to do.
So you'd be willing to reapply if we decided to do that, and be willing to serve this board and the county at large, right?
Well, I'm not sure about that, Mr. Smith.
Okay. But it's something you'd consider.
I would consider.
That's good. Thank you.
I think it would, I'm not taking sides here, but I think it would be hard to reconsider when you're being told that you want an RFP bid going out. That would be
Well,
like,
yeah.
we like you, but we want you to stay, but, you know, we're going to look around. That kind of,
Well, I can understand the emotion, but, you know, and obviously my business is more transactional than this, but bottom line, I get that every day. I get that on every bid, and I don't take it personal. If I get beat, I just decide a way to win next time, right? Or with the next customer. And bottom line is, I think Ms. Kirsty's very professional. I don't think she takes it personal. It'd probably at the end of the day just be a bottom line thing for her. Is the effort worth the income, you know? And in that sense, it may or may not be. And so.
board?
In the discussion, I don't think it's anything Meredith withheld from you to establish what you've,
No.
this format. It was probably our, you know, we should set, especially myself, I should sit with Ms. Christie and go through the dialogue of the 25 pages and say, what are at least the high points of it, if I don't read every page. And it's probably my neglect that I should be sitting with her and go through those things, which I'll call you and we'll set up something and I'll go through that dialogue of information. So it's probably more my neglect than it would be your neglect on anything that is not known to me.
I'll be glad to sit down with any of you one-on-one, not together.
Right.
Yes.
And she has been available anytime I've had a question. And if it's an accounting question, then we go to this side. And chances are, most of the time, it's an accounting question that I have with her. So, I go through her, then we go through them. And I will tell you that I feel, and I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, it was not Miss Kirsty's neglect that we did not know about the tentative millage. It was not her. So, board,
I think right now you have a motion and a second for an RFP, so you need to vote on that, and then you need to get back to the other item if you're going to vote on any tentative, or you're just going to not do anything.
okay. So we need to take a vote on an RFP for the future, or to keep Miss Kirsty. I don't know how to put it. I don't know if, so I need.
State your motion, Mr. Smith.
Motion, yeah, state your motion.
My motion is that we do an RFP for the attorney and include all comers and make their presentation. And we do this in, I don't know, what do we need to do? Is pretty timely, in maybe 3 weeks or a month, or is that unreasonable?
If you're asking my opinion,
Yeah.
are you saying that you want the response to the RFP to be in 3 weeks and you'll
Yeah,
address
assuming we
in the August meeting?
Assuming we pass it.
Are you asking to have a special meeting just for addressing the response for the RFP?
Well, I would think we need it before the August meeting. Obviously, if you apply and you're the winner, then obviously nothing changes, right? We just move on. But I mean, I think we should do it before the August meeting, so we probably need to have a special one. But I suppose it would be possible, since you're still currently in that position, and will be until we hire another board attorney, we could just do it at the next meeting. So if that makes sense, rather than causing everybody to have to come out here to another meeting when we're all trying to take vacations, maybe that's the right thing to do. So that'd be fine.
I'm sorry, I don't think I understood exactly direction, Mr. Smith.
I'm saying the next meeting would be fine, unless you think there's a reason we should make a determination before the meeting, because you may or may not, wish to apply, since you're not sure about that at this point. So do you think we should do it before the next meeting and have a special meeting, or do you think it's okay if we do it the next meeting? I'm good with either way.
I guess I was just asking for clarification of your motion.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then y'all can vote and tell me what you want to do. And Matt has a comment.
I'm over here, just a point of clarification. The next meeting is up in the air. The date of that is currently up in the air. It's scheduled. We have it in front of us here, but that was one of the meetings that we're going to seek moving to better
That's right.
accommodate schedules.
Well, I'm going to say August 10th, and since, if we're going to change it, we may not be, and if that's so, I won't be here. But we're not voting, as I recall, on the 17th anyway, so I guess it would need to be a special meeting where we need to make sure we have a quorum, correct? Because we'd be voting on that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It'll have to be a
So that would change the dynamics a little bit. So it'd be important we have a quorum. So I'll say August 10th, just throw out a date. If somebody wants to change it, that's fine.
Well, again, if you throw this RFP out there and somebody applies, and then we have a meeting August 10th, are they going to be up to speed with us for August 14th?
Yeah, good point.
They won't be. I don't see that. I think we need to take a vote. I think we could go and talk about this most of the evening.
Yeah, if it doesn't pass, there's no point setting a date. So I would just say tentatively in the next 30 days.
How's there no public comment on something you're voting on? I'm just curious.
Well, this was not on the agenda, actually. This was not on the agenda as an item. But we actually didn't substitute it in. It wasn't an adjustment to the agenda. This was just brought up out of. So I don't really even.
Okay, so my motion, then, if you want me to be specific, I'd say let's consider an RFP and we'll have a special meeting sometime within the next 30 days.
So to have a special meeting, we have to
And then we can vote.
pay for this. We have to put a public notice in the paper. We have to put a public notice for RFPs in the paper. It's probably going to cost us, what, a couple $1,000s to do that. So just to,
Then amend my motion, that's fine.
I'm sorry.
Then you're welcome to amend my motion, or whoever made the second. If you don't-
Yeah, I don't need to move forward with my,
Okay, all right.
do we want to table this?
And we can take a vote to table it if you want. Need a motion to table
Make
it.
a motion to table this?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All not for it? Any yays, noes? How many yays? Say that again.
I motion to table it.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All
All opposed, nay?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, so we're,
Let's decide it.
no, it's not decided. It's a tied
No, I
vote.
said,
We're back on your resolution.
yeah.
Back to a tied vote.
Nothing's-
My thing is that we're getting ready to go into some important time. I mean, I'm a little bit torn on this.
Is it better just to retract the motion than it is to table it?
We just, well, we
Yeah.
did, and it didn't pass.
Yeah.
We didn't vote on the motion.
Not yet.
We just voted on.
Then we need to vote on the motion.
Right.
Okay, let's do a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Aye.
Aye. I'm going to, since we rebutted it, I'm
That's all.
in a
Doesn't carry.
position.
Okay. Okay, boy, oh boy. So we are now at a point of making a motion again for setting a tentative millage. I need a motion.
What was your motion?
I move that we
1.25.
set the
.25.
tentative millage at 1 because of the unknowns that we won't know until we do our budget meeting.
I think there's already a motion on the table, right?
Is there?
Yeah, she said
No.
point.
I think there was. No, we're
Well,
just
I
doing
thought
that
you,
motion.
I thought you threw out the motion of
No,
point
no,
two
no, I
five.
didn't. Not-
Okay, I
There was a
misunderstood.
second on it.
I apologize.
You're second on it?
No, I said there was never a
Oh,
second.
there
on
was
it.
never, okay. I need a second on Mr. Hurley's.
Did you still have?
I don't
did you
think I
never-
made the
made a
actual
motion.
motion. I was
Misunderstood.
just in conversation, I believe. So, Mr. Hurley, would you state your motion?
I make the motion, we set the tentative millage at 1.
I need a second. No second. I see no adoption of 1 mil.
All right, I'll make a motion, we set it at .25.
I'll make a second.
So now,
All those in,
don't we discuss now, or have we already?
no, we're voting, right?
Okay,
We
we're
don't
voting.
have to discuss anymore, do we?
You can have discussion if you want.
If you
but
want
Anybody
more
want-
discussion on that?
You
do-
don't beat this horse to death.
Yeah, I mean,
Discussion.
I was going to say, I think we've really talked about this, so,
I'd
I'll,
just like to say, if you vote on .25,
yes, sir.
you are guaranteeing that we're not going to raise any more money than $4.6 million.
Yes, sir.
Hmm?
We did a first, we did a second. I need a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Noes?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're a tied vote, so
That's
we,
carried.
we got to do again, don't we?
We don't have to make a decision tonight.
I think we have to make a decision tonight, so we'll start from scratch again. Who wants to
We
make?
have to make a decision tonight.
Because I think it's incredibly important. I don't feel that, I think 1 mil is too much of a leeway. I think,
All right,
I'm going to use the
I thought
analogy.
we went through all this.
I'm
yeah,
not-
we did.
I'm not going to, I'm not sure who made the analogy, but if you tell your child, you're only gonna get 25 cents, and they said, well, no, Mom, Dad, I need $1, and you give in, you're giving them $1, and then you say, they've been
Barb?
bad, we don't need to.
Barb,
take it away.
I'm prepared to make a motion. For the sake of moving on, I'm going to say .40. Let's go .4.
I'm still not sure why we have to set a tentative tonight. Is it just because you want to?
No, it's not, it's a fact that we should.
That was your answer.
No, it's not because I want to, it's because I think it's important to the taxpayers. I think it's incredibly.
.4 is just slightly below the rollback, okay? And one thing I hope we can all agree on, we don't need to be saddling taxpayers at any more of this tax, which I think is totally off limits and we should not even have in the first place. But for the sake of moving on, and we can have plenty of time to think, pray, discuss, learn, educate ourselves, talk to people that are involved in this, obviously not each other because we can't do that, and make a further decision when the time comes, but we can move on. But anybody that thinks we should tax the Lake County more than we have in the past, I think is really being irresponsible. So I'm going to say .40.
You have a
As
motion
a
on the
top.
floor.
Do we have a second?
Can I do a discussion first?
Well, you need to make
You
a
have to
second.
have a
Motion.
second.
I'll make a second with
Okay.
discussion.
Now discuss and vote, right?
Okay, so if you were to do the .4, you're in the neighborhood of about what we did funding for last year, is that correct?
Last year was .050.
Yeah, I know, but because of the.
Based on the tentative information provided, the .4 would provide just under 7.1 million in ad valorem taxes and an estimated 50,000 in interest, so just over 7.1 estimate.
Yeah, it'd be slightly lower than the rollback based on what we talked about earlier.
Okay.
These numbers that we're looking at, we're in discussion. The budget that was proposed last year was at 7.8 million.
It was,
So, I mean, is this year's expenses going to be more? I mean, I just don't know. I mean, that was what was last year.
well, yeah, you want to answer that? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, we make an estimate of what these costs are going to be based on the attorney's fees, the accounting fees, the agreed upon procedures fees, the auditor's fees, insurances, legal ads, website costs, et cetera. So it's a real estimate. That information is provided really loosely and tentatively at this point, this early point.
Okay.
Well, here's my point. I've came from where I really believe it should be 0 up to 7.1 million. You've already stated you're okay with 7.8 million. So in a horse trading thing, you kicked my butt, okay, just so you know. So I think you're getting 90% and I'm getting 10% based on, what we said we were both willing, what we both prefer. So I think .40 is a good starting point, and then we can talk about the rest of it and, determine what we believe we should do.
So I have a question. If there's a shortcoming, is the county, if there's, is there shortcoming, are we somewhere liable or?
No,
There
no,
won't be, 'cause
no.
if,
Mr. Braun already told us they won't suffer medical issues, people injured.
Well, I didn't know if we had a legal obligation.
No, we do
we're
not.
going to let Matt
no.
talk to, you want to talk with that?
Sure, if the first of all, the funding requests that are made and approved are capped, that's a capped number, and that would, in theory, be below what your tentative or what your millage is going to be, your ad valorem taxes. They only get that amount once approved. And then the other expenses, the overhead expenses, if you want to refer to them as that, when you have no more money left, they stop. Services that you have would stop or the bills would start to collect in arrears until the next budget period, I guess. But if the clinics provide and the hospitals provide funding requests that you approve that are less than the ad valorem, they would be funded at their capped amount, so long as the money was there.
All right.
And, Matt, I'm sorry, but what did you say that dollar amount was at .4?
The estimated amount would be 7,119.
Okay. Okay. So we've had a first, we've had a second, and we need to take a vote, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Yeah, on which position is this again?
This is .4. All opposed?
Aye.
3-1.
I didn't cast my vote, but I will carry the vote for the .4.
Tentative millage rate passes at .4. Okay. So I think our last item on the board is our website. Ms. Kirsty, would you like to go over that?
I will make it very brief.
Thank you.
We have a new web person, and your new website is listed on your agenda. Meeting with him again tomorrow. You have some pages in your packet that I just brought tonight. It is definitely a work in progress, but I think that you will be pleased with the new information. If there's additional information that you would like, or a way that it's not organized, that's user-friendly, please just contact my office. Thank you.
And thank you. That was very brief. Thank you. Do we have any other necessary business to conduct tonight?
The website been updated?
That's what I was talking about, sir.
Yeah.
If you'll look
I
at
saw
it.
that,
Yeah.
but it has been updated?
It is a new website. It is updated, but we're working on it.
Okay.
All the pages.
Okay.
So if you have additional information or don't like the way it's formatted,
Okay.
call me.
I think we are finished with our duties tonight. Thank you, everyone. This was